Also, please recite the second Surah Ham for healing and shifa for all those who are in need of our prayers, those who are ill and sick. And let's inshallah recite Surah Ham for the shifa of those people as well. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إلهنا وشفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. قال الله الحكيم في القرآن الكريم: ومن آياته أن خلق لكم من أنفسكم أزواجا لتسكنوا إليها وجعل بينكم مودة ورحمة إن في ذلك لآيات لقوم يتفكرون. ومن آياته خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف ألسنتكم وألوانكم إن في ذلك لآيات للعالمين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. For the honor of the Fatemiyyeh Zahra, Salamullah alayha, reciting all the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala. Most of us, as I look at the age range here, you're familiar with the history of the life of Fatemiyyeh Zahra. At least you're familiar, especially these days that we're commemorating the departure of a woman who is a symbol of piety, infallibility, and a great example for believers, men and women. And we know what happened after the Prophet. Usually when we talk about historical narration of what happened after the Prophet's death, there's a lot of arguments. Even among Shias, there are the ones who said, no, that's not true. How is that even possible? Is that even possible for so-called Muslims to attack the house of the wife, house of the daughter of the Prophet, and disrespect her the way they did? And they said the narration are weak, they're not reliable. There are all these arguments, which they're beside the point. And the point is that after the Prophet, even today, we see how not only Hazrat Fatemiyyeh Zahra was treated, but even today Muslim women are being treated around the world. So it's not that shocking to see that Muslims are capable of undermining the teachings of Islam and doing exactly the opposite of what Prophet been teaching. I was in the last 2 days, I was reading about this horrific news. I don't know all the details, so I'm not going to take a side on that. But again, it's beside what I'm trying to say, and that is that in Saudi Arabia, a mother and her son were going to ziyarah the Prophet from Ihsan, and somebody attacked this child. Why they did it? Some said it was mental illness, some said it was because they were Shia. That's again beside the point, and I'm not going to take a side on that. But today, 1400 years after the Prophet's ﷺ message was delivered, a child who was 4 or 5 years old was beheaded in front of his mother. It could be because of mental illness. It could be. So to say that 1400 years ago after the Prophet, it's not possible for some people to go and attack the house of Fatemiyyeh Zahra, and that's not believable, and that's the only argument they have, is beyond understanding for me. That even today, the way Muslim women are being treated around the world, in some so-called Muslim countries, and compared with what Rasulullah ﷺ taught about women's right, is beyond my understanding. ask Iraqi family, Persian family, or any other culture out there, that how many families out there, if they have only daughters, how much they're being criticized by so-called Muslims that why you don't have sons. And then tell me how much message of the Prophet is visible in our lives. 21st century, 1400 years later, so many tradition about that woman and the rights and having a daughter is a blessing, is rahmah. And still people are stuck and insisting that your family is a good family if you have a son. And the life of Fatemiyyeh Zahra is a living example of oppression of women till today. That so-called men, they led themselves to treat the only daughter of the Prophet they treated because of their own gain. And you can disagree with the historical narration, but we cannot disagree with what's happening in the Muslim Ummah today. That's something we cannot deny. What I want to talk about, inshallah, for the next few nights, I'll be here, inshallah, on Saturday and Sunday. So it will be a total of 3 nights. I want to talk about something that Fatemiyyeh Zahra was a foundation of that, and that is the concept, what we call family. Family is something that recently there was a book in years, in the last few decades. The union of the family is being threatened by so many different threats. From this approach and this appetite of living by yourself and having very solitude lifestyle, to different ways of defining family in different ways and forms in the name of we're living a different time and we have different type of families. And of course individualism, that you are important and you should take care of yourself before you take care of your family. This mentality is one of the reasons, beyond other factors involved in many divorces, that we have today in the world, not just only in America, but in the world. This emphasis on self. That's the reason we have selfies, right? We have to care about how we look. And the idea of sacrifice, the idea of doing more what you have to do, and the minimum is something that is laughable to some individuals. There's a lot of beautiful theories behind globalization. Globalization says that the entire world is one big what your society, what your country is gaining from that, that's beside the point, because the world that we live in is a big village. But again, because they're poor, we blame the uneducated because the way world is today is not because people were born, they decide to be this way. No, they were born into a situation. They didn't choose to be poor. They didn't choose to live in a country that have no clean water. They didn't choose this idea that we are living in a big village. And Roots had some positive ideas that we also believe in, and that is that, as Quran says, that the different languages, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ خَلْقُ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, that from the signs of Allah's power is creation of the earth and heavens, وَاخْتِلَافُ أَلْسِنَتِكُمْ وَأَلْوَانِكُمْ, and you having different languages, different colors. This is from the sign of Allah. But But Allah says, إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِلْعَالِمِينَ. Those who are alim, knowledgeable, those who are basically they know that this is a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But for ignorant people, they don't see that. And one of those ideas that unfortunately is being under threat is this concept that we call family. Something that there are a lot of admiration about it. Because of globalization, a lot of our youth, they care for other people, which is very good. We have something, is a title that probably 90% of our youth, it's a bit exaggeration on my side, I don't know what is the exact percentage, but I know so many youth that if they have a social media profile, they have one thing on that profile. What is that? Activists. Now, activists. Our youth, I'm talking about more those who really care about the situation in the world and what's happening around them. I'm an activist. I try to help people to have a better life. I'm a human rights activist. I'm this, I'm that, which is good. At least in theory, it's a very good and noble purpose to have. But unfortunately, some of these youth that I know, and I don't blame all of them, I don't accuse any person who's an activist of being a liar, God forbid, but I know some of them, who at least they try to help other people, they fail miserably to do the responsibility toward their own family. And that's the sad part. And that's very ironic. And we want to help the world, we want to help others, and the closest world that we were born into, we fail to help them. And we always blame them. They don't want my help. I give my help to people who like it. Shaw is a philosopher, a British philosopher, as this famous quote said, that a happy family is nothing but a heaven that you were born into it earlier. If you have a happy family, pretty much everything is set. Regardless of what difficulty you face, you have a semi-mini heaven prepared for you. But people take that for granted so many times. Because you have so many other blessings that we take for granted, including family. But a right type of family, that's what we mean by that. A family that's supposed to be a functioning, working family. What is the right family? And when I talk about family, I'm not talking about only your wife. I'm talking about any part of the family that you're part of. So for single people, I'm talking about your parents. I'm talking about your siblings. I'm talking about your relatives. And when you get married, the family get bigger. It doesn't get replaced. It becomes bigger. Unfortunately, one of those mentalities, once you're married, that's it, you move on. And that's another sad part. That the wife expects the husband to move on and put aside his family, and the husband expects the wife to put aside her family. It's like that they never had any attachment to these people. They just, their job was to raise them to a certain age, and then that's it. Take this gift and move on. When in reality, a family stays a family regardless. Yes, your personality maybe become a different personality. You change. Your social responsibility become different. You start getting titles. Yes, you get married, you start having new families, but it doesn't mean you have to replace them. The family is supposed to produce. School cannot replace the role of the family. Family is supposed to do what it does best, and that is tarbiyah. Tarbiyat, upbringing, starts from family, and that's the most important part that a family is supposed to focus on. So what happened today that we see the things are happening? For multiple reasons. Number one is that our families, they are not educated enough to know how to actually do the process of tarbiyah. We don't know. We think we know, but we don't. Why we have to know? Because in the past, you may say, my great-grandfather didn't take a class about tarbiyah. They just know how to do it. The issue is in the past, probably we're talking about 100 years ago, society was able to kind of cover for us. If I was not able to do the right thing, well, I would send my child to the society, most of the times society would help me to still raise a good kid. You know, when you send to the school, if I wasn't able to teach my children about, you know, akhlaq and morality and ethic and their faith, school would have done that, maktab would have done that, some kind of entity out there would have done that. But in the time we live in, that's not the case. It's exactly opposite of that. When you send your child out there, it's being taught everything that is against what you're learning. 10 years ago, maybe, you know, media was helping you about drugs, but right now you're living at a time that even media is helping you, is going against you with normalizing the use of drug. You know, marijuana is not a big deal. Everybody uses it for fun. TV shows teaching that. Teachers and professors in university talk about it openly. It's not a big deal, and they try to normalize it. So you're not living 100 years ago that the negative was negative. What considered to be abnormal is abnormal, is going through changes. That's the reason my responsibility is to update myself. Not as a father, as a mother. As a child, update myself. What should I do right? What is the right way? Yes, there is a time that we live in that requires modern approach. But it doesn't mean to give up the right approach. A modern approach means to understand that in the past you would not let your child to hang out with the wrong crowd, right? Even 100 years ago, 500 years ago, a good father, a good mother, a good family was the one who doesn't let their child to go and spend time with a person who's well known to be a criminal, or well known publicly to be a sinner. You won't let your child to hang out with them. Modern approach, it means that in addition to that, that you should be careful about who are the people that your child is spending time with. Make sure when your child is spending time on YouTube, understand that YouTube is a new form of communication with your child. Somebody is sitting on the side of the camera, they're recording themselves, they have a message, they're saying something, and your child is listening to them. Exactly. This ability didn't exist 500 years ago, 100 years ago, but exists right now, and you have to update yourself about that. That even, as I said, very liberal parents, they even know about it, that for my child, I have to install something called YouTube Kids. And then there is parental control on that, that you can monitor what your child is watching. And instead of being happy that, oh, my child is not going out there and being missing for the night, he or she is just in her room watching some videos. And that's our responsibility, to update ourselves. My responsibility as a speaker is to teach you about that. I have to update myself as well. So let's start with a good family. What is considered a functioning good family? And I want you to listen to that, because this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's message. And the beauty of that is, even if you pick up a book today by the most educated, the PhD doctorate in psychology and maybe in marriage and family therapy, who has an MFT, they would probably tell you the similar things. Because what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us is not based on the time of Saudi Arabian Peninsula of the time. Is based on the nature of the man who is long lasting forever until what we consider to be a day of judgment. This is supposed to be a message who is relevant to all different ages and different times. So step number one, Allah said, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا. From the signs of Allah's power is that He created a mate for you. A partner, a mate. Zawj means pair in Arabic, right? Azwaj, zawj come from that. It means, pair means two, right? Mate, partner. It means that in order to be able to have a happy family, you need both. In order to have a good family, you need a good mother and a good father. If one side is failing, you will most probably have a difficult time, and there will be dysfunction in that family. And I can give you tens of examples based on my limited experience with people that the father was a very good father, means in order that he was very careful and care about how to raise their children, but the mother wasn't. And ultimately, unfortunately, in that specific example, father failed to do the process of tarbiyah because mother was not the right partner. And I have example of opposite of that. That the poor mom does everything by the book. Does everything right, take the child, for counseling, make sure talk to the experts about how to make sure to deal with the problem, but the father is a careless father. And the child has issues. And I just had the example of that last week. Just last week. A father who literally abandoned the family, and the poor mom is trying to somehow get everything together. So if you want a happy family, we have to be partners. We cannot blame. We cannot say it's your fault, it's your fault. Mom and dad, father and mother both have to collaborate with each other. And if you want to do tarbiyah, please resolve your issues with each other before going to your children. If you want to help your children, resolve your issues. I promise you, if you resolve your issue, if you have a problem with my husband or with my wife, if I fix that, if I come to an understanding, if you're able to somehow improve our relationship, it is the way to do the tarbiyah for your children. It's like a teacher who's trying to go and teach. They have to first educate themselves in order to be able to teach. So even if you are, as I said, if you're the best father but you're a bad husband, that will influence your child. You can't say, and I've heard it, so many people who unfortunately divorced, they say my wife was the best mother but a very bad wife. My ex-husband was a very good father but a horrible husband. We could be that. And that will influence our child if we like it or not. We need to take both responsibilities. So I can't say I'm a good father, but I am a horrible husband. I'm a good mother and a horrible wife. I need to play both character right in order to have a good family. Because my children are observing everything. They see everything. So if you disrespect your wife in front of your child, and then tell your child, my child, you have to learn adab. That's like literally trying to teach something that you go backward and you reverse what you already taught. Yes, after kids grow up, maybe you were the most respectful person toward your wife. Your children choose their own path. If they chose their own path, nothing on you. They do. Sometimes you're the most respectful mother, most respectful father. Even toward each other, you do your responsibilities. Children sometimes take their own path, and that's beyond our control. We try to do our best, but after a certain age, they make their own decisions. But our responsibility is, as long as I'm in charge, I'm the driver, I have to take care of the problem. It's literally it's like when they didn't get their driver license, you have to be very careful how you drive. Anyway, you're careful, but when you have children, you have to be extra careful. Because even a small accident could cause a lot of harm. But when they get their own driver license and they do their own drive, you try to advise them, be careful, drive careful, make sure, go slowly, but you cannot control it. So our job is, as long as we're in the process of tarbiyah, to do it right. And we have to be a team on that. If as a father you undermine your wife, as a mother you undermine your husband, you will not be able to have established authority and having that respect toward your children. Oh, you have to listen to us. Because when I say, oh, it doesn't matter what your dad said, go do it. Doesn't matter what your mother said, go still do it. That's literally undermining yourself. You think, oh, as long as they respect me, as long as they love me, they will be safe. That's just a lie we tell ourselves. Because they know, as a father and mother, they're supposed to love both of you equally. At least that's what it's supposed to be. You have to listen to both of you. If you undermine one of them, it means the other one is okay. It's like if I tell you, you can slap me only on this side, don't slap me on this. The moment you let somebody pass that red line of abuse, that's it. It's just a matter of time that comes to the other side. It's just a matter of time. So that's number one ayah of Quran. A happy family, a good family is the one who parents work as a team, as a zawj, as mates, as partners. They both give hand in hand in order to save themselves and their families, both. That's number one. Number two, لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. A happy family is that Allah said when we mate, we partner you up, you come together. Your mates, your pairs now, that you may find comfort in one another. لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. A happy family is the one who has comfort. Right? That's a good family. Family, it's supposed to, if you're outside, you're stressed. If you're outside, you deal with anxiety. If you're outside, you're dealing with pressure. When you go inside the family, it's supposed to create relief. Whatever is the way to do that. That is the way. Because if the wife is upset when you come to your family, you feel this is my home, this is my house. If you're, as a husband, when you go home, that's what you feel. Not that when you go home, your stress becomes double. That's the problem in some families. Somebody go with a problem, and the family said, no, why you bring your problems to us? Put your family behind the door, put your problems behind the door or at the door and come inside. Yeah, it sounds good, but human beings, everything is with us. We don't leave it at the door, we just hide it. You suppress it, you push it down, and then you come inside. And sometimes when you push it down, a bit more pressure is like a balloon. You know, when a balloon, basically the more air the balloon has, it's easier to pop, right? It's very easy. You just need, even if sometimes you see, we had in some celebration, Masjid Al-Nabi as well, when they air the balloon a bit more, even just leaving it, because sometimes because of the light or because of the heat, that simple physics happen, and the balloon start to expand, and you see pop. All right? Balloon explodes. That's what a human being is. When somebody shove it down, they pressure, they go inside, they try to control themselves, and something happens. And that could be like a needle to that pressure, and that person explodes. That's the reason if you go to any therapist about marriage problems, they talk to you about what? Communication. You have to communicate. You have to talk to each other. Don't hide your problems. Talk about it. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us. Comfort, you cannot find comfort from not speaking about the problem. Sometimes you have to talk, and as a wife you have to listen. As a husband you have to listen. All you have to do is listen. لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. That's a happy family. If our family creates tension, once in a while it happens. You know, they said that one argument, one disagreement, it happens. But if it's continuous, it's very often, that is not a healthy thing. I've heard people say, you know, in some cultures, I'm pretty sure in every language there is a synonym for this, that said, you know, arguments between couples is like salt, you know, when you cook. You have similar things, but even salt, if you put more than what you have to, you cannot eat that food anymore. That's, I think, a good idea. Yeah, as a human being, you're two different people. It's normal to have disagreement. Once in a while to have that argument. Once in a while. But if it's all the time, then that's not healthy. That's no salt, by the way. That's become poison. You start having, you know, all blood pressure with all that salt. Literally, with too much argument and fights, you don't want to go home anymore. There are people who are lost worshippers, that they have the best family and they still go somewhere else. That's not the topic of my discussion. You know, when somebody betrays the trust of their family, when they go and they abandon their family and they go with someone, they cheat and all that, infidelity. I'm not saying the blame is on their family. No, sometimes it's the best family, best wife, and I know examples of that. The problem was not family, the problem was the man's lust. That person cared about his own desires more than anything else. So I'm not saying if you see somebody abandoned, so oh, he didn't want to go home because his family was a bad family. No, I'm not saying that. But there are cases that the person never abandoned his family, but they come to a point and say, okay, I don't want to continue this, I want divorce. And when I talk and I see sometimes the blame goes to one side. The husband made the family unfortunately very hostile, or the wife did. One of them did. لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. And I finish, inshallah, leave for the rest of it for Saturday. Prophet said from the signs of sa'adat, from the signs of salvation, prosperity, is that when you go home and you see your spouse, seeing your spouse makes you happy. إِذَا نَظَرَ إِلَيْهَا سَرَّ. When you look at your spouse, if it makes you happy, that's what we have. Imam Ali alayhi salam said about Fatemiyyeh Zahra, salamullah alayha, that whenever I saw Fatima, all my ham and gham, all my grief, all my sorrow would disappear the moment I see the face of Fatima. That's the sign of sa'adat, khushbakhti, salvation. And how we can achieve that, that's up to us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to appreciate our family, to recognize the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that honored us with. To keep in mind that we're blessed that Allah did not create us to be alone, but to have somebody, to have people in our lives that they love us, they cherish us, they take care of us. And regardless of who we are, regardless of how much we can provide for them or not, they still love us, not because of what we do for them, but because they respect and they deserve that respect from us as well. May Allah give us that tawfiq. And inshallah we learn from the life of Fatemiyyeh Zahra salamullah alayha to have that kind of family, to be able to raise children who are the lovers of Hassan and Hussein, lovers of the message of Ahlul Bayt. And there are those who are activists toward their family first, and then they are activists toward the cause of helping the rest of humanity, inshallah. May Allah give us that tawfiq. And as a summary, again, a happy family, a healthy family is the one that Quran says couples and parents work as team in order to provide an environment which ultimately leads to proper tarbiyah, proper upbringing. And secondly, a healthy family is the one who has ability to provide comfort, peace, that ability to release pressure from somebody who comes to family. As human beings, we're not perfect. You know, that's another topic that I will inshallah discuss on Saturday. But not being perfect, that's not an excuse for us to do whatever we want. That's the whole reason we have tazkiyah, right? We have jihad al-nafs for that reason, that we're not free to do whatever we want. We have to be all constantly struggling to control ourselves, to train ourselves, to withhold. But at the same time, there is ability to help people in this path. May Allah give us that tawfiq. They did the musibah Fatemiyyeh Zahra salamullah alayha. And all I want to say and finish inshallah with the salam to Fatemiyyeh Zahra is, in tradition we have that by the end of the life of Fatemiyyeh Zahra salamullah alayha, she weakened and her body went through that severity that the translation to what they describe is that nothing left from her but a ghost. ناحلة الجسم. And what should happen to an 18-year-old, 19-year-old to go through that? I leave that to your understanding of the Musibah Fatimah al-Zahra. And to somebody like her to go to the grave of the Prophet and to make this dua, Ilahi, Ajjil wafati sari'a. Hasten in my departure of this dunya. What kind of difficulty she went through with the ummah of the Prophet, as she asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to end her life. That's the peak of the musibah. If you only be able to fathom a bit of her difficulty. May Allah accept our salam to the soul of Fatemiyyeh al-Zahra and make us worthy of receiving the shafa'ah and intercession of Fatemiyyeh al-Zahra salamullah alayha. Let's say the salam and finish inshallah with that. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت محمد يا قرة عين الرسول يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا الله يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا. اللهم إنا نسألك اللهم وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم العز الجل الأكرم بكتابك المستحكم وبنبيك المكرم وبأهل بيت المعصومين سيما مولاتنا فاطمة الزهراء استجب دعواتنا يا الله 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 يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. اللهم ادخل على أهل القبور السرور، اللهم أغن كل فقير، اللهم أشبع كل جائع، اللهم اكس كل عريان، اللهم اقض دين كل مدين، اللهم فرج عن كل مكروب، اللهم رد كل غريب، اللهم فك كل أسير، اللهم اصلح كل فاسد من أمور المسلمين، اللهم اشف كل مريض، اللهم سد فقرنا بغناك، اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك، اللهم اقض عنا الدين وأغننا من الفقر إنك على كل شيء قدير. For the soul of all marhumin, especially marhum Farhad Pur Kareem, brother-in-law of brother Mr. Shakar Furush, and all the other marhumin, the family members of them are with us. Please recite Surah Fatiha, but before of that, salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم